What is up, everyone? Welcome to the Chat with Langston podcast. Today is a Thursday, and it's an amazing day today because it just started snowing. So, definitely, it's good to see some snow after a while because I don't know, it's winter, and for some reason, it was a sign. Well, global warming, but that's a different story. Anyways, I hope all of you are having a good time. Maybe you're listening to this on your commute to work, or maybe at the gym. I just hope that this podcast is valuable to you, if anything. And definitely leave your comments and your review and, on whatever platform you're listening to, whether it's YouTube, Spotify, or Apple. I would really appreciate that. So in today's podcast, what I want to talk about is OpenAI, which is basically the company that started ChatGPT. So if you had listened to my previous podcast, I basically talked about ChatGPT and what I thought about it. I gave I think I did like a 10-minute podcast on just talking about it, what I felt about it. And I think it was a very interesting thing. And today I kind of want to get deeper into it. And I also want to talk about another project of OpenAI, which is called Dalle. I think it's called Dalle 2. Regardless, that's basically what I want to gear this conversation towards. And I know that over the past couple of years, AI has had a huge impact on, just generally everyone's life. It's something that's evolving. It's something that people question, and some people think, it's a good thing. Some people think it might not be a very good thing. And there's a bunch of debates over that. So what the questions that I actually want to answer today the questions that I want to, discuss today is, number one, is AI helping us? Number two, is AI going to take jobs away from us, specifically copywriters, considering that ChatGPT has come, is one of the first tools out there that can actually pretty much write anything you want, from a short story to, a script, including a YouTube script, actually. Can AI replace human beings? And is it going to be relevant in the next 10 years? So, yeah, let's dive into it. So, now let's talk about ChatGPT again. If you haven't listened to the previous episode, ChatGPT is a tool. It's essentially like a search engine, an artificial intelligence search engine, where you can type something and it responds to your base. It gives you a response which is very streamlined based on the question that you answered. So if I say, hey, ChatGPT, could you give me a recipe for brownies? Instead of showing me a bunch of results, it'll give me one result, which is basically talking about how to make brownies. And if I talk about, hey, give me a result for vegan brownies, it's going to change the results to vegan brownies and give me the recipe specifically for that. So the way I look at it is it's a very streamlined approach to search. If I say, hey, could you help me, it can also help people who code. So if there's an error in your code, you can basically put that error in ChatGPT and it gives you a solution or a potential solution for that. Now, I specifically don't code a lot, so I never use it for that purpose, and I haven't tried it, but I think some people have and they find it useful. I personally would have to try it myself to check that. But in my opinion, so far, what I've used it for is, creating LinkedIn posts, creating Instagram posts, even creating and rephrasing certain things. So let's say if I had to type a message and I want to rephrase that, I can just throw it in there and it can rephrase that entire thing. And it can do it in a way it sounds professional, which is pretty cool in my opinion. So that's what I use it for so far, and I feel like I might probably use it as I keep moving forward, especially with content creation and whatnot. So that's what it is, and I would definitely want you guys to play around with it and see what you think about it, because it is a tool. The next project that OpenAI is, it's called Dalle 2. Let me make sure. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but so what is Dalle 2 essentially? right? It is basically another artificial intelligence platform, or where it can create original, realistic images of art based on a text description. So let's say you type in a dog skateboarding through New York City. It's actually going to, using its artificial intelligence, using the data that it has, it's going to somehow create a picture where it shows you a dog boarding through New York City. And these are pretty accurate. Like, for example, there's a bunch of pictures where, oh, yeah, I see an astronaut on a horse, which is pretty cool. So it basically creates a whole picture based on what you tell it. And it's also based on the data that it has. It somehow correlates all that data. So it's like, okay, you want a dog. So it gets a picture of a dog skateboarding to New York City. So 3 separate things. And somehow it's able to put that together based on what you want and form an amazing picture. Now, the picture might not be as good, and I think it's still evolving. I did not play around with it a lot. What I typed was a wolf skateboarding through New York City, and it actually pretty much put that picture out there, but it wasn't so great. But it still did it though. It was still pretty good for what I saw it. I don't know how this is good. I feel like it's very good for some creators, or maybe for people to use it as a tool to it's almost like a whiteboarding tool to check how that would look like. But I personally don't know, what would be the main, at least I did not find a use case for this tool in my life so far. The main thing is that it is still a tool out there and it's still developing, and it's pretty, it gives realistic images. So I think there's a lot of stuff that could potentially be done with this. And I guess I'm actually paying some attention to the community right now to check how this could be used. How are people actually using this? But the question is, I guess, and a lot of people I think have this question, is artificial intelligence or AI helping us? And what's my take on this? I think it is, in a way, because I think it is definitely. I look at it as a tool, right? I look at it as something where it's almost like an assistant that kind of helps you make something better, or at least you can get an opinion from AI. So, like, for example, ChatGPT, if I do type something and I want that rephrased, yes, maybe Google could help, or Grammarly could help, and OpenAI is another tool that could potentially help me. So I do see it as a tool that is very helpful. I do not think it's not helping us. I think it's just something, it's based on data, and I feel like that can be very useful, especially as we keep moving ahead. I think it also saves a lot of time when it comes to typing stuff. And, I think it's, definitely something that it can reduce a significant amount of time, especially if you have to type in a long paragraph for something. I don't know. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do your own work. Obviously, there's something known as plagiarism, which is kind of like the issue actually, because a lot of schools have said that students could use ChatGPT to write essays and whatnot, which is a whole different issue. And obviously that might not be the right thing to do, because as you're growing up as a kid, you kind of need to know how to write an essay. I feel like knowing how to write is an amazing skill to have. I think you need to grow up with that, and it's not something that you should use a tool for. And that's my opinion. I just think that as someone who's grown up, it is something that could help you. It could help you maybe correct an essay, if anything. I don't know. That's what I think. But to answer the question, is it helping us? Yes, it is. Some might argue no. I don't know why exactly. And I would definitely want to have someone on the podcast maybe to talk about this. Why is it not helping us? Is that something that could, be bad for us? There's a lot of stuff on it. Maybe it could, right? It depends on which application of AI we're talking about. So maybe let's just, maybe self-driving cars, for example, right? There are a lot of talks about, I guess, I believe self-driving cars have to use some level of artificial intelligence to be able to identify objects or whatever, or I don't think that's AI actually. But obviously, when it comes to a big machine where, you're driving a car and then, imagine you're hitting a person, but it's the artificial intelligence that did that. So that's a whole different story. And I don't think that's something that's AI based. The next thing that I want to address is AI taking away jobs, specifically copywriters? And I've actually listened to a couple of podcasts where they were talking about this, is it actually taking the jobs away from copywriters? Because if you're going to type in something, if you're going to be like, hey, ChatGPT, write me, based on the couple of facts that I have, write me a 10-page article so I can post some notification. It will do that for you. The thing is that the question is it taking away jobs? In my opinion, it's a yes and no question. It really depends because, again, it is a tool, right? A copywriter somehow has his own creativity. There are a lot of copywriters that might have their own creativity towards the article that they're writing. Versus AI uses the creativity that it has based on the data that it has collected. So it can never have its own creativity towards it. Same with writing an essay, same with writing a poem. You cannot really use ChatGPT to write something very creative because that is a human thing. I think, yes, it could, however, replace jobs because it is something that it is pretty much doing what, we tell it to do. But that's the same thing with, computers or, let's, forget about computers. Think about farming, right? This is an example I think I've heard in another podcast actually. Like people use tractors for, plowing and, harvesting and everything. And when the tractors came along, that probably took away a lot of the jobs from people who are doing it manually. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Obviously, it's a good thing because if you do use a tractor, you're saving a lot of time and that's about it. But if you also see, it has created a new job opportunity because someone needs to ride that tractor and, someone needs to know how to use it because it is a tool that is used to basically harvest your crops. So one job was gone, but another job was created and it's spun up a new industry. It's the same thing with, cloud, for example, like cloud-based technologies. People would always store their stuff locally and you need an administrator to basically, administer your servers. But now if you have something that's cloud-based, you probably need to hire someone who knows how to interact with the cloud so that they can actually do that. So it's just, if you look at it in a different lens, that's how I see it. And I'm hoping that you guys can get my perspective on this. So I think it's just going to probably create more jobs, maybe. That's what I think. That's just a thought because right now it's still not completely evolved. Everyone's using this for their own personal purposes. I don't know how a business can still implement this. But I think even if it does take away jobs, it's going to create more jobs because someone's going to need to know how to interact with these AI tools. And that's a completely new industry, if you ask me. So that's what I think about it. Can AI replace human beings? Absolutely not, because human beings are what actually AI is getting the data from us. So I don't think it can completely replace us, we still need to be able to feed the data. We need to maintain it. We are the ones who are creating it in the first place. So it's not going to really, I think it's a pretty straightforward answer. The last question I want to address in this podcast is AI going to be relevant in the next 10 years? I think, yes, it is going to be relevant in the next 10 years. It is going to be something that people might at some point rely on, because it's almost going to be, this is going to be a very weird way of saying this. And if you guys get the reference, and if you guys get the reference, cool, leave a thumbs up on this video. And if you don't, leave a thumbs up on this video. I don't know. But if you guys seen Iron Man, which is a Marvel movie, Tony Stark uses an assistant known as Jarvis, which is his AI-based virtual assistant. And he pretty much relies on that to make some decisions to create whatever he has to create. I feel that's what's probably going to happen eventually with artificial intelligence in general. I'm not talking about specifically ChatGPT or Dalle 2 or anything. It's just going to be, AI is something that's probably going to be, we as human beings might probably rely on something like that in the next 10 to 20 years, where we'll have a voice assistant, where we talk to it, interact with it, and pretty much have that as an assistant, and it's going to learn us, and it's going to make decisions based on what we think, or learn from us. Which is pretty much what's happening with a lot of the technology right now. Your phone or some cars learn the behavior. So it learns a human behavior and it adapts to that, and it makes decisions based on that. So that's what I think is what's going to happen in the future. It's going to be very important, and I think that it is not a bad idea to hop on this train, because technology is evolving almost every year now, every day. But I think it's gonna be relevant, and it's definitely good to get some education on AI itself. So those are my thoughts, and yeah. I hope you all enjoyed this podcast. I definitely want to wrap it up now, because I think we definitely addressed all the 4 questions I talked about in the beginning. And I would like to also know, what are your thoughts about artificial intelligence? And please leave them down in the comment section below, wherever you're listening to this, because I want to just know what are your thoughts on these 4 questions. And I'd appreciate that. If you like this podcast, again, leave a review, like and subscribe to my channel as always. And thank you for listening.